If you had a real-life save point, you'd use it, wouldn't you? And if you had a TV experience better than you ever imagined, just waiting for you inside your PlayStation, you'd use it, wouldn't you?
Theoretically, I'd use it, but for right now, I say go, go, go!
Ladies and gentlemen, easing the pain of Monday, it's Cordkillers. Our mission to report the intel from the front lines of the cord-cutting revolution so that you can make an informed, educated decision that will put you in control of what you want to watch, where you want to watch it, when you want to watch it, on what device you want to watch it. I'm Tom Merritt.
Hey, man, I'm Brian Brushwood, live and direct in a closet in the middle of an undisclosed location in Georgia at my family reunion. And let me tell you, man, it's wild, Tom, because I talk about the different shows and the family, like, they know that I do shows, but they don't really get what they're about. And when I explain Cordkillers, if I say cord cutting, you know, you kind of get a glassy-eyed stare. But when I explain, you know, like watching stuff, you know, what you want, when you want, on whatever device you want, like watching Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, their eyes light up and they're all like, oh, yeah, no, I love to do that. Or I've always done that. Or my kids are doing that. It's awesome to explain to normal people who don't know who we are or about the show, the concept, and have people respond so excitedly for it.
This is a bit of a humble brag. I just warn you right here. For the first time ever since I moved to Los Angeles, I got recognized in the grocery store by a Cordkillers fan.
Oh, that's amazing.
And he was just like, hey, Tom Merritt. I was like, oh, hey. And I was like, maybe it's somebody I don't remember. He's like, I watch Cordkillers. I love it. I'm like, thanks, man. I think his name was Jamie. I apologize if I got your name wrong. But it was it. We're just like, you know, buying some groceries, and he was Cordkillers fan. It was awesome.
Well, and it's not even like you can make that excuse of like, well, this was at Best Buy, where if I'm gonna get recognized anywhere, it's gonna be here. It's like you're buying organic vegetables or something.
Yeah, this was in the frozen foods aisle at Ralph's. You know?
Like, Patreon's not treating us that well, people. Hang in there.
Let's just be honest. We don't shop at the Whole Foods in the Merritt household anymore. No, it's Ralph's is a fine grocery establishment. They have sometimes many better foods at a much better price. Not sponsored by Ralph's. However, we are also not sponsored by Sony PlayStation Vue, which was our opening video there. And I got some thoughts. We're going to talk about that and gear up.
Oh, boy. Yeah, no, that's saving that for later. But for now, why don't we dive in on the primary target?
I also wanted to acknowledge that Patreon supporters did help us get Brian out of France, but only as far as Georgia, apparently. So
please bring Brian home, won't you?
Hey, so we got 3 different reports here, one from Recode, one from TechDirt, one from the New York Times. The TechDirt one actually is related to a Variety report, with 3 different takes on the world around us. So I'm gonna explain these 3 different takes, Brian, as quickly as I can, and then I want you to tell me how all of these people can be looking at the same world around us. TechDirt's Carl Bode has a story called "Years of Pretending Netflix Cord Cutting Wasn't Real is Biting the Cable Industry in the Arse." He talks about a FBR Capital Markets claim that was reported in Variety that Netflix will likely have a larger 24-hour audience than any broadcast network in the U.S. by the end of the year. They come to this by saying that you essentially know that there's about 2 hours of viewing per subscriber per day. That's on par with a 2.6 rating, which would put them right even with ABC and NBC. We assume it's going to continue to rise. And when asked in a survey, would you choose between Netflix and cable or satellite TV? If you had to give up one of them, 57% picked Netflix in that Hobson's choice. So that looks good. Like, hey, you know what? Everybody really likes the cord cutting. They like the Netflix. Then you get the New York Times' Michael Wolff writing a story, How Television Won the Internet, where he says people spend more time, way more time watching TV than they spend on the net. There's a glut of traffic on the net, which drives down the ad rates. The TV doesn't have that problem. And he even talks about Netflix billing itself as a disruptor, except that it is television. It's just paying Hollywood, then the TV industry, $2 billion a year in licensing and programming fees anyway. And then finally, the peacemaker is Dermot McCormick, president of AOL Video and Studios, writing on Recode, over the top and television will coexist, and it will be beautiful. And he says that TV is good at telling stories, they don't have to all be told on the same screen. And so he describes a situation where you watch a show, then you turn to your tablet for a related short video, then you open Snapchat to see what happened in an off-screen moment from another character's point of view, and later on you're sitting at your desk and you get a FaceTime from the protagonist foreshadowing what's happening on the next week's episode.
All right, let's go in reverse order. This Recode article, I think I think I was the least impressed with because it did two things. It stated what to me I felt like was fairly obvious. The fact, like, basically it peeled back the sham and revealed that this whole idea of either being a cord cutter or a traditional televisionist partisan, it's a false dichotomy, and it was not the case, and it will never be the case. And yes, the two will coexist because both choices to begin with were nonsensical. Meanwhile, I think that the idea of as he puts it, watching a narrative thing play out in different medium, we've never seen that done really well. It's always seemed kind of contrived. I tell you where we see that go very well is in sporting events, in gossipy type things, like if we're watching the MTV Movie Awards and then we see like a real fight between people go on, but that's not scripted narrative stuff. But I think that one, to me, of these three articles gets the kind of the duh award, which, yes, it's mostly 100% correct. I think it's spot on the money. I also think that none of us really expected it to be otherwise. Do you feel that way, or am I off base on that?
I looked at this when I saw the headline. I was like, oh, this will be interesting. So it's talking about the merger and how TV's TV, like you're talking about. But then it ended up being kind of a plea for second screen. And it's like, I don't know that people want second screen content. Well, webisodes are okay. Supplemental content's great for the super fans, but most of us just want to watch the show. That's it.
Now, I'll tell you what I thought was very insightful, and I really dug, was the article, How Television Won the Internet. I actually recommend everyone read this one. You said New York Times, right?
Yeah, Michael Wolff, who's actually a brilliant analyst and writer.
The article starts off with him, full on saying that he's got a dog in the fight because he interviewed Rupert Murdoch's son, who seemed to him at the time to be utterly clueless about the digital revolution, about the cord cutting, apocalypse that's coming, shrugging his shoulders and saying, hey, man, it's television. Of course we're on top. We're TV. And it turns out that essentially he's right. If by TV you mean exquisitely crafted, essentially television as a medium is creeping up on its 100-year anniversary, right? So as an art form that never existed, they've had about 100 years to kind of figure it out. TV as an institution out there in Hollywood has gotten really good at figuring out how to package things into half hour, 22 minutes, into an hour, or even, mini-series events. And we're starting to see that grow and expand with, the amazing narrative fiction revolution that we've seen since the year 2000. And that content is only getting better and better. So in that regard, you could say that television is winning because we are getting more shows like Better Call Saul. We're getting more shows like Orange is the New Black owes a lot more to television than television than the reverse. You know what I mean? It's not a revolution. The best programs we see on Netflix are traditional television with all the crap we don't want filtered out. Stuff like commercial breaks and advertisements and wedged in, obvious promotions and the need to write scripts that don't flow from one episode into the other as neatly as possible because you can't depend on a consistent audience watching the whole thing straight through. It sounds filthy to say it, but he's 100% right. Television won. But when I say television, I don't mean old media. I don't mean crappy bundles that you're forced to in your cable. I'm talking about the business of exquisitely crafted, high-quality narrative and nonfiction entertainment is setting itself apart from, as he points out in this article, the world of listicles and BuzzFeed articles and a million casual glances because ad rates are so cheap. There's such a glut of them that they just need a maximum number of eyeballs. And they know that 5 surprising facts about your puppy will get enough views of disinterested party. Nobody's life will change. It will not stick with them at all. They'll probably run across that article again later on, and BuzzFeed could not be happier about it because that's more views for their crappy, pennies on the dollar ad rates that they're getting. And then meanwhile, we're seeing a flight to quality over in the world of Netflix and Amazon Prime and even in Hulu originals. I agreed with almost everything I read in this article.
Yeah, to give Dermot McCormick points, he talks about, television is about stories. And really, I think what Michael Wolff is saying is stories won the internet. Good storytelling, correct, whether it's Netflix or anywhere else, right? What I don't agree with is that the internet is just a dichotomy between listicles and Netflix. I do feel like Michael Wolff slips into an understandable position of defending against what some people have been claiming, like, oh, digital will win. I've got my digital axe. Digital's going to take down everything. And he's pointing out very rightly that, well, it didn't really. And a lot of this stuff that you thought was going to win is very cheap. On the other hand, it really isn't giving you the whole picture. I mean, if you really want to take his argument to the logical extension, print won the internet. Because guess what? Most people read things on the internet. Like, print is everywhere on the internet. Websites and information dominate the internet. And I know video wins in bandwidth consumption, but that's because video is a high bandwidth consumption. If you talk about how much time people spend or how much information, I bet you get a different breakdown. The point I'm trying to make really isn't that print won or that Michael Wolff is wrong. My point is that the internet is more than just video. It's more than just BuzzFeed. It's more than just any one thing. The internet can't be won. And I think if you really want to make a better point than what Michael Wolff made, or even not to put it that way, to build on what the point he was making, it's that the internet makes things possible to become better. So if you're good at telling a TV story, Brian just gave you a great example of how you can tell it better now on the internet, and how pay gates sometimes are great. I think this sort of like low rate of advertising and chasing after page views is a temporary situation that will work itself out over time. And I think you will find that there will be eyeballs collecting in particular places. Just like when we were talking about retail in the late 90s and early 2000s, everybody said, you can't run retail anymore on the internet because there's just a million stores and everybody can have a store and nobody can build up mass momentum. People were saying that. And guess what? Amazon and eBay, they did all right. They were able to collect those eyeballs because people at the end of the day don't want to have infinite choice. That'll happen eventually here. But all that set aside, I think his major points are right, which is it's not about, and it never should have been about, digital will kill the old way of doing things, because as he rightly points out, it doesn't kill the old ways of doing things. We just adapt it to new technologies.
Yeah, well, it's almost as though, and one of the things he points out in the article is that a skyrocketing amount of our time spent online is spent watching what many people would call television. Watching Netflix and so on. So does that mean that television is? And meanwhile, more people watch watch television, full on just television, than spend time on the internet. Wrap your mind around that. You and me in our little digital cocoons. Tom, recognizing that right now, all the rest of my family, the extended family, all downstairs, they're in that crowd. Like, we are the outliers and the weirdos, and that we spend more time on the internet than we do watching television.
I probably spend more time watching television than I do on the internet myself.
What?
Because I watch Netflix, and I watch Hulu, and I watch Apple TV, and I watch diamondclub.tv on my Roku. Like, I'm watching television, right?
Okay, if you're
my point is that it's a false separation to say you're either using the internet or you're watching television. And Michael Wolff makes this point himself. He talks about, like, examples of television winning are Netflix and Yahoo cutting a sports deal and Mark Zuckerberg saying the future of Facebook is video. Like, to me, it's like television's moving to the internet and it's going to be very successful there, is really the point.
Yeah, I guess we're entering an age where television is synonymous. Television is less of a medium now and more of a content category. It is a type of product that we consume over the internet. We get all of it over the internet. We get radio programs, aka podcasts, like the ones you're listening to or watching right now. We get television shows. Well, and I guess this is the weird thing, Tom. Is Cordkillers television or is it radio? Because we have, like, it's almost split right down the middle. People consume our show half and half.
More people listen to the audio than watch the video. So if anything, it's more radio than the video, but it really is both. You're absolutely right. And the fact that Netflix, if you were to give it a rating, would have a rating on par with broadcast television, I think is very insightful still. And it doesn't necessarily contradict what Michael Wolff's saying on the New York Times. This is just saying, hey, you know what? People like to watch good television. And if they need to find it on Netflix or they need to find it on Hulu, that's where they'll go to find it. And this show has never been about digital will kill anything. This show has been about what can you as a consumer have control over so that you are actually able to choose what you want to watch and not have to deal with a bunch of crap.
Yeah, you hear that? Once and for all. Just because we're called Cordkillers doesn't mean we promote killing anything, especially cords. Save the cords, we say.
If you need a cord, that's fine. It's fine. Only to us. It's more like the cords that bind you from choosing are the cords we want to kill.
That's fine. Hey, man, there's actually a bunch. I don't want to diverge too far off topic because I know a lot of this we're going to loop back coming up in the future stuff here. Do you want to take a moment and thank the folks who make our show possible?
Listen, yeah, we want to get Brian all the way home. And thankfully, 2,125 of you, an increase from last week, are continuing to support the show. You get value from the show. You give value back at patreon.com/cordkillers. But if any of you can help back the show, I'm not promising that will make Brian come back from Georgia to Austin. But it certainly made him come back to the show this week. That's all I'm going to say.
Let's go for this, Tom. You know, people think like, oh, what can I do? Brian's going to be trapped in those tall pines of Georgia, sitting on a raft, floating in a lake with his family for all time. We'll never get him back. 5 people. That's all we're saying. 21-25 this week. Next week, let's be at 21-30. You could be one of those 5 people. Step forward over that line, like at the Alamo. Something about Sam Houston.
His wife and children miss him, even though they're also in Georgia.
They just have bad aim. Shall we jump into the signals intelligence?
I was going to say the same thing. All right, I think this is maybe one of the most interesting things to happen in this space for a while. As we mentioned, Showtime, following in HBO's footsteps, going to make itself available on the internet for purchase independent of a cable television subscription. However, you can now, when it launches on July 12th, also purchase Showtime as a part of your Hulu subscription. So you have to be paying the $7.99 a month for Hulu, but then instead of paying the full $10.99 a month for Showtime, you can just add $8.99 a month onto your Hulu subscription and you get Showtime. So it comes through your Hulu app, which means it'll be available on more platforms than the Showtime app will be, because Showtime's going to be on Apple and Roku at launch, but Hulu's everywhere, right?
Smart move on Hulu's part. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off if there was more.
No. And I the only other thing I want to add is that at launch on Hulu, you'll be able to watch the live streams of Showtime on the web. You won't be able to watch those immediately through the app. So there is one minor difference here between subscribing through the Showtime app. But otherwise, you've got Hulu shaping up to be the modern aggregator and an actual a la carte cable service, which is like, hey, you get all these shows for $7.99, you get Showtime for $8.99, and Hulu says we're not announcing anything, but we are open to other kinds of deals like this.
So this is almost certainly me misremembering something I said, but I want to say that in a recent episode we were talking about like why Hulu charges money for a membership, but then on top of that makes you watch ads. And there's some people, you know, including yours truly, whose brains would explode with that. But then it hit me that what Hulu, its sales proposition is, we are television on your Roku device, on your laptop. We're television everywhere except for television. And that's what's brilliant about this, is they're doubling down on that. Now all of a sudden, it smells a little bit like a cable experience, but you got to admit, I would take a Hulu-type cable experience over traditional cable any day of the week. No channels, no, you just type in what you want and it's there. No remembering codes for channel numbers and all that stuff. This is smart, and I think it's a smart play for Showtime, because being number 2, you have to do something unconventional. I assume they're still making good money on it, even at that subsidized price.
Well, Hulu's taking the hit. According to the TechCrunch article, Showtime still gets all the money that it would normally get for a subscription. Hulu is eating the difference in the cost.
That's double fantastic for Showtime, right? Because it gives legitimacy to Showtime, but it also gives legitimacy to Hulu, and it gives an answer to that question: why should I sign up for formerly Hulu Plus? Now, what's it called? Just being a paid member or something?
It's just called being a Hulu subscriber. Yeah.
Subscriber. Okay.
They don't have a name for it anymore.
Why be a subscriber? Well, now you can get access to Showtime within the familiar portal. Think about this. Think about all the things Showtime doesn't have to do now. They don't have to, or I guess they probably will develop all their own apps for all those various devices. But now the fact that you can
but they don't have
access
to
all
rush
that
to it, right? They've got options now.
Yes, exactly. I think this is great, and I think customers win. In fact, I would like to kick it to the audience to see if there's anybody who doesn't like this. And if you don't like this, please explain to us why at cordkillers@gmail.com.
Yeah, and don't say I don't like it because I don't want to watch Showtime, because that means you don't like Showtime. And that's that
means it wasn't for you.
If you don't like Showtime, you're not going to like any deal Showtime has. It doesn't matter what it is. But if you're I want to watch Homeland, I want to watch Ray Donovan, but I don't like this deal because X, Y, or Z.
Well, and plus also keep in mind, if you don't like Showtime, then it's not for you. But this is another brilliant part about it. Kind of like once you buy, let's say you only have the budget to either buy a PlayStation or an Xbox, you get into that ecosystem and you start finding yourself rooting for their exclusives, even though you might not normally be attracted to it. This is an opportunity. Like if you're in the Hulu ecosystem, it's like, well, it's only $8.99 more. This is the winning play for Showtime to be able to get people like Showtime's pretty much HBO. I mean, HBO's got one or two shows that I hear good things about, but I don't watch those. I watch them. I want them for the movies, in which case Showtime will, by and large, give you everything that you're going to get out of an HBO experience as well, only it's in your familiar environment.
Well, think about it this way. Guess what Hulu gets out of this? Like, we're sitting here going like, wow, Hulu eating the cost. That's crazy. What Hulu gets out of this is for zero additional cost, let's say, they now have added all of Showtime's movies and all of Showtime's television shows to their offering. The cost is passed directly on to you. You got to pay that $8.99, but Hulu's not losing anything here. They're gaining a huge library that they can add. And if in the course of this, some Showtime fan says, I've been on the fence about Hulu, but all right, I'll pony up the $7.99 in order to also get Showtime, because that makes it worth it. All of a sudden, Hulu's gaining subscribers by adding a channel that costs them nothing, and they don't actually have to pay to acquire stuff the way they would normally ahead of time. It's just they're gonna have to pay per subscriber that pays them, so it pays for itself. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. As a matter of fact, here's the other thing. With the big three, you have your Netflix, your Amazon Prime, and your Hulu. Hulu really felt different from the other two. Netflix, you had exquisite originals. You had a cycling group of top-tier movies that was coming in. You had a recommendation engine. You had a lot of that stuff in Amazon Prime, similar space. But Hulu just felt different. Everything was, past few weeks, whatever's on TV we got here, and that's it. And now all of a sudden, it feels, especially if you're a subscriber to YouTube or subscriber to Hulu with the Showtime upgrade, all of a sudden it feels like there's parity between all three of those that I don't think existed. And I don't even think I recognized didn't exist before this deal came along. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I think it's worth emphasizing here that none of the Showtime shows will have commercials.
Yeah.
So, when you're thinking about like, oh, I get all these shows from Hulu, but they have commercials. Suddenly there's a bunch of shows that don't have commercials on them.
But again, that's exactly what you would expect, because again, Hulu's, as I understand it, Hulu's sales proposition is dead simple. It's TV, but on your computer. That's all they need to keep saying, is that it's TV, but on your computer. If you can watch it on TV, you can watch it on your computer. I mean, and that's what they should aspire to. They're not there yet, but as long as they can keep hammering on that, that's what's going to resonate with, again, all those non-digerati downstairs at my family reunion.
Well, and the funny thing is, since I've started paying for Hulu, I have realized that the commercials don't bother me because they're still easier than fast forwarding on a DVR. Right?
Much easier.
Most of the time, the stuff I watch, and it may be different for people who watch more current things, stuff I watch has one, maybe two ads in the breaks. It's very rare. Like if I'm watching a recent Bob's Burgers, I think I've seen maybe 3 or 4 ads. Most of the time, it's a very short ad break. And I'm like, God, this is so much easier than picking up the remote and flipping through. And I timed it wrong. I got to reverse. I don't have to think about it.
And again, we've mentioned the insanity of this, but the legitimate problem, this is like a truly big problem with the Hulu ads, is that there's not enough variety in them. There are certain shows that you will see the exact same 2 ads every single break the entire way through, which is, again, weird to find yourself in the position of like, I wish more advertisers would diversify the way they pitch their products to me.
I think the key here, though, is now you have the ability to get most of the shows from the major broadcasters and one of the number 2 pay channel in the U.S. on one service that you can decide whether you want to pay for it from month to month. Cancel at any time. That, to me, that is the big innovation that we're seeing. It's nice to be able to get them on multiple platforms. I can watch it on my tablet without putting in weird codes, all that sort of thing too. But the key thing is I don't have to pay you $110 a month and then call somebody when I want to cancel. And I think that's huge. I think a lot of people underestimate that when they're doing these comparisons and go, well, you really don't save a lot of money if you want to get exactly what you were getting before, or people saying, but it's not really a la carte. I don't even care. The fact that I can put together Sling TV, Netflix, Hulu, Showtime, and HBO Now, even if it's exact same money, the fact that I can cancel any one of those any month I want and then put them back up whenever I want, that's invaluable.
Yeah, for the first time since picking up cable, so that we could watch, Hacking the System on National Geographic, I now feel like for a while we kept cable because I've dug the kids being able to just hop on and watch all the Disney programming authenticated through their iDevices. But now I just don't see it anymore. Now that we have HBO on there, I think I'm going to cancel cable for the second or third time, and I'll jump on. I think I'll become a Hulu subscriber. And I'll report on how that goes for us for a bit.
And Noggin, the Noggin out there too. I don't know if the kids like the Noggin shows, but
oh my God, no, dude, it's amazing. When we were talking about how big a network Netflix is, I was thinking in terms of like, oh yeah, no, I guess I do watch most of the stuff I watch is on Netflix. I like the Netflix originals. I'll watch certain movies when they come out. Yeah, maybe they are as popular as the network as the big networks. And then I remember how many hours and hours and hours every single day with 3 girls, children's programming is the biggest reason why Netflix is blowing everyone out of the water. I'm going to say that per day between my 3 girls, we're looking at between 8 and 10 hours per day of programming, like clockwork for them. Because again, and that's double counting them. So it's like if we let them watch 2 hours of television, that's 6 hours right there of them running it. It's insane, man.
Yeah. All right, time to gear up a little bit.
Yeah, I'm sure that the gear we have is super easy to explain, right, Tom?
Well, yeah. Now, we talked about this a little bit at the top of the show. Our opening video was the commercial for Sony PlayStation Vue. Some people, including Recode, took some shots at it because it doesn't tell you anything about why PlayStation Vue would be better. And their argument, which I can't really disagree with, is that PlayStation Vue isn't necessarily that much better than regular cable. I mean, Peter Kafka's right when he says, PlayStation Vue is just cable on your Sony PlayStation 4. And I think he's right. I do think, though, that control that I just talked about is key because you can cancel anytime you want. You're not locked into a contract on the PlayStation Vue. I think the interface is a little bit innovative because it's side to side and it's easy to search. And because it has a cloud DVR, you don't have to worry about, am I going to run out of space? How many episodes should I record? It just keeps them for 28 days, right? You know what's happening when you put it in there. It does suffer from the same problems of Sling TV in that not every channel has the same options. Some channels won't let you set the cloud DVR. Some channels have a large library of on-demand titles where you don't even really need to set the DVR because it's all there. Others have nothing on demand. And occasionally, a channel won't let you watch it because they don't have the rights to stream that particular show onto Sony PlayStation Vue, which never happens with cable. But by and large, using PlayStation Vue, I feel like it is the closest to replicating the reliability of a DirecTV or a Comcast or a Time Warner. And I mean that in the sense, in fact, it's probably more reliable in that I feel like I'm just watching television. But it has some advantages that I mentioned in the usability of it.
Well, and hopefully Sony has, let's say, for sake of discussion, that it is just a cable network that is built into your PlayStation. There are significant advantages with the fact that the person providing or the entity providing it is a big player in content ownership. The fact that Sony's the one running it, and they're going to have the weight to bully a lot of I don't want to say bully, but to encourage a number of channels in order to make things available. What we all strive for is this universal availability to, curiously enough, watch what we want when we want on whatever damn device we want without being surprised by not available live but not DVR, available DVR but not live, and so on. It makes me wonder, and we've talked about this on the show before, Tom, how so much of our difficulties with this is not technological at all anymore. It's all just entangling, poorly written legal agreements that predate the internet. And I just now, as you're describing the spottiness of the Vue availability map, I was thinking like, man, what would it take for us to get everything we wanted? And it's like, well, it would, you could say that there's an argument to be said that that's what torrents do now, but they do so completely illegally, and everyone who is downloading is participating in it. And it made me wonder, like, it seems like in order to just offer everything, you'd have to set up some kind of broadcast service on the moon. And then it occurred to me, like, I meant that as a metaphor to myself, but then it occurred to me, like, no, seriously, how far off do you think we are from a pirate radio station, essentially, on the moon that just collects all bandwidth, all media, all everything, and then just rebroadcasts it from the moon? Because what are you going to do? They're on the moon. And it's like,
but that's no different. I hate to bring it down because I love the metaphor. And I love the idea of a pirate radio station on the moon, or a pirate television station on the moon that broadcasts everything. That's amazing. It isn't any different than somebody in Vanuatu hosting torrents.
Well, no, it is different insofar as the nature of torrents means that if you are consuming it, you are hosting it for someone else. So you are participating in the crime, right? Whereas if it's on the moon and it's just raining content on you, you're not actively participating when you turn to that channel and watch the incoming broadcast. That's again no different than popcorn time, right? I'm just watching the incoming broadcast of popcorn time. I don't know where it's being hosted. It could be hosted in a country that says it's legal for them to host it, which exists, right? It's still violating terms of service, rights, of course, regional locks, etc. It's not. I am not advocating
also,
this.
I would
I'm
argue
not saying
that
this is
sadly,
what we should have.
Broadcasting from the moon, not on demand, because the two-way communication is just going to be crap.
Well, yeah, no. As a matter of fact, I remember getting very sad as I was playing Doom at Deathmatch in the mid-90s, and I was calculating like how bad my lag was. It was like 500 milliseconds, and it was like, this is unacceptable because it was a dial-up connection. And then, looking at the math and realizing that it would be a 2,000 millisecond lag, and I was like, I will never play Doom with someone on the moon. The lag is too bad. And so yes, I am very much aware of that, but. At any rate, I'm sorry
to get back to the PlayStation Vue. I think the key here is that it's, as you said, it's something that could become the perfect service. Sony's done a great job designing it. Maybe the PlayStation 4 isn't for everyone price-wise at $399, but hey, it could be a lot worse. $60 a month, $50 a month, starting to get a little pricey, but you have control. And for the most part, I haven't run into those availability problems as much on the PlayStation Vue as I have on the Sling TV. So it seems like they got some better deals. Their biggest problem is they don't have ABC Disney. So that means no Disney XD, no ESPN, no ABC channel on your broadcast. And that's the big thing PlayStation Vue has. They have local CBS, they have local NBC, but they don't have local ABC. So it is it's a service tied to a piece of hardware that isn't perfect. And I think that's where it really comes down to me is like, oh, I guess I can put it on my iPad, but I can't put it on my Roku. I can't put it on my desktop. So nothing is quite there yet.
Well, and more importantly to me, it doesn't look like it's going to get fixed anytime soon. I mean, we're looking at, we have deeply entrenched teams, and that there are these guys who are friends with so-and-so, and these guys own so-and-so.
I want to short circuit there real quick because it's not just, I want to add to your objection. It's not just ABC Disney is like, I'm not going to negotiate on this, right? I'm going to give it to Sling, but not Sony. It's also Sony saying, I'm not negotiating this. I'm not putting my service on the Xbox, right?
Yeah. Well, and it's like I don't see that getting fixed anytime soon. And we talked a couple of years ago about this metaphor of the monopoly board. I just wanted all the properties to hurry up and get everyone's claim staked so they can finally get down to horse trading and figure out how to make everything available to us. And we're getting there, but it's not going to be on one device. I think I'd hate to say it, Tom. If you are a want to be cord cutter, you need to acknowledge the fact that for the next half decade, I see zero chance of there being any one device, any one service, anything you can do to get everything. Everything's gonna be heavily balkanized for the next decade or so.
You call it balkanized, I call it a la carte.
That's fine. I mean, it's gonna be a whole lot of remembering all your different logins to whatever. What we might hope for is
you're already leaping to the next problem, but think back 5 years. And, think how impossible it felt that we would have any services that would stream multiple cable channels with the ability to watch on demand over the internet. And now we have 2 in the United States, PlayStation Vue and Sling TV, with a couple more, possibly from Apple, possibly from Verizon, that could happen before the end of the year.
Absolutely. And if anything, what I'm doing is recognizing right now the development of a third-party concierge service. I mean, imagine if there was something that you could sign up for that they say, we will charge you 99 cents per month, and we will manage all of your subscriptions. We will remind you which ones you're using, which ones you're not using. We'll sign you up for some months.
There's a guy right now furiously emailing cordkillers@gmail.com to explain how his startup is doing exactly that right now. In fact, there's probably a dozen of them. The problem is, we haven't settled where all the things are yet.
Correct.
So I don't feel like there's one service that can win that second battle quite yet.
Agreed. 100% agreed. I don't want to harp on this too much. It's like, look, it's getting better. It's just we're all frustrated that it's not getting better fast enough.
But you know what does get better fast enough for me is the Scam Stuff store.
Oh my gosh, dude! Do you realize? Okay, for those of you guys who don't know, to help keep the lights on, we put together this amazing little store called Scam Stuff. We call it Gear for the Modern Rogue. Me and John Tilton go through hundreds and hundreds of different nutty ideas, crazy things, everything from lockpick sets to trainers to we have hats that are secretly weapons in disguise. It's amazing. Check it out, scamstuff.com. But do you know what I'm talking about getting better? Do you realize, Tom, that we've had a brand new product release or a refresh every single week for I want to say 4 or 5 months straight now. And in fact, if you're not familiar with it, head on over to scamstuff.com and just sign up on the email list. Every Friday we write, we try to make it funny, we try to make it interesting, but we come to you with a fresh new hot idea that hopefully will make you the coolest person at the bar.
There's all kinds of ways for us to keep the lights on. Oh, look. Someone just bought something at the Scam Stuff store.
Oh, that certainly helps. Thank you.
Let's move on to the front lines.
Front lines.
Amazon released some numbers for its E3 live coverage on Twitch. They had 21 million unique viewers over the course of their 41 hours of programming, peaking at 840,000 concurrent viewers. That's a TV rating there, folks. In comparison, if you want to know, YouTube reported it had 8 million views over its 12 hours of programming.
This is the power, the massive power of branding yourself around one particular topic and owning it in the public's mind. When E3 was happening, I actually wanted to watch it on YouTube's brand new gaming platform. For the life of me, couldn't remember where to find it. Couldn't find where to look it. Went to YouTube.com.
Okay, let me stop you right there because that is a really interesting reaction to the confusion of their announcement. It wasn't on their new gaming platform. You didn't have to have their new gaming platform. It was at youtube.com/E3.
Again, I went to YouTube, and I'll take an extension on this. I went to YouTube, typed in E3 2015 live, and expecting that I'd see whatever announcement was going on live. Guess what I found? Found a bunch of old news from 2014 or live playthrough, recorded segments, and I was just like, and I actually asked myself, I wonder where the live E3 stuff is happening. And then another part of my brain was like, Twitch, dummy. Of course it's going to be. Yeah, I said you're going to go to Twitch. You're going to click on it, and it'll be the first thing. In fact, you won't even have to click. You're going to go there, and it's going to be playing instantly. And I did. I went to Twitch, and boom, Bethesda announcement. Went to Twitch, boom, Nintendo announcement. Went to Twitch, boom, Sony announcement. I mean, it's brilliant branding on their part, and it's a smart play. Look back on, how insanely upset I was that they were giving up on Justin TV and limiting everything only to gaming. This is the right call, man, because they're getting the numbers now.
Yeah, I mean, they could have kept Justin.tv around, but it wouldn't have mattered one way or the other, right? Twitch is definitely successful, and they definitely were all over E3. And granted, 8 million people seem to have figured out how to watch YouTube, but Twitch is the default. When you think gaming, it's like, well, I could go and try to find Universal Sports to watch something, or I could just turn on ESPN, right?
Well, and plus
and
also
Twitch is
like
ESPN for gaming and esports.
That's correct. And as a matter of fact, I predict that there will be some kind of big earth-shattering news about some controversy, something where there won't be a live event to immediately cut to. But because I think Twitch is very, very smart, I guarantee you that when there's a controversy about this guy getting fired or this guy getting hired, I'm going to want to know what everyone thinks about it, and I'm going to go to Twitch, and I hope I see a friend of the Diamond Club Network, man versus game up there running his mouth off talking about the news right now as it happens, because that's the reputation that Twitch is earning for itself and doing a great job.
Well, since you disclosed you have a relationship to Twitch, I should disclose that my wife works at YouTube.
All right. Analytics from App Annie says HBO Now topped its chart for worldwide revenue in May, right in front of Spotify. Trends indicate it could repeat in June. Is this correct? This means that HBO Now is the worldwide biggest money-making app on all platforms?
Worldwide on the iOS platform, because HBO Now was exclusive to iOS. So we're just talking about the App Store on iOS. But yeah, worldwide on iOS, HBO Now made the most money in May.
Dude, congratulations. And I got to tell you, man, it's like my experience with HBO has been exquisite. I've really had good quality streams, only a couple of hiccups here and there, which I assume are just going to get smoothed out over time.
Well, and you know what it shows too? A lot of these other apps, they only allow you to sign up on their website because they don't want to split the revenue with Apple. And what HBO said was, yeah, but we'll have more signups if we do split the revenue with Apple, which means we'll make more money. So we'll just go ahead and do that. And it worked for them in this case. Might not work in every case, but it did. Facebook really wants to be a place to watch video. In fact, they're premiering episodes, or they did premiere this past week, episodes of HBO's Ballers and The Brink on Facebook for a limited time. You can still watch them. Ballers is on Dwayne Johnson's page, and The Brink is on its own series page. Facebook kind of wanting to move into the, you think of it when you think of seeing a video the way you think of YouTube.
Man, I'm really conflicted on this. On the one hand, I feel like when you have the kind of money that Facebook has, you're able to bully your way into being that. But I was wrong. I thought that that Google would be able to do that with social media. I thought when they had those kind of resources and that kind of push, they could make Google Plus a success. Although I will contend that Google Plus is a massive success in that Google Plus has become the back-end social platform for YouTube, making it by the numbers, one of the largest social media platforms. So I don't know. This seems like a hard play for Facebook to come out on top. I don't know if I see it. What about you?
I could see Facebook making some progress as a place that I watch funny videos, right? That I share with my friends. I don't see myself regularly going to Facebook to watch a television show unless Facebook comes up with a Facebook video app that I can put on my Roku and stuff like that. But this sort of preview stuff gets you thinking of Facebook and video in the same sentence. So in that case, it's a success. But you got to, you have a large road to try to unseat Facebook as a social network. I think you have a really large road to unseat YouTube as the place for watching the videos.
Yeah.
On the
web. There's other speculation I could do, but I'm going to skip it. Amazon is finalizing a deal to pick up Elvis and Nixon, a movie with Kevin Spacey as Nixon and Michael Shannon as Elvis. Amazon will release the film theatrically before it comes to Amazon Prime, which is, how amazing is it, Tom, that we live in a world where that is a novel aspect of this distribution scheme?
Well, no. I mean, it is novel because no online service has done this. Like Netflix has pissed off royally all kinds of theater distributors by consistently making movies, and when they put them in theaters, putting them only in independent theaters because they insist on putting it on Netflix the same time they put it in theaters. Amazon for the first time is saying, you know what, actually we'll budge on this. I mean, think of it this way. Can you imagine a made-for-TV movie by ABC going out into the theaters first and then coming to ABC? No, they're going to put it straight to ABC, and they just won't release it in theaters because they don't want to bother with it. Or maybe they do a limited thing for awards consideration like Netflix. This is Amazon getting into the theater release business. You're gonna go to major theaters for the first time, and you're going to see Amazon's name emblazoned up there on that big screen.
Dude, that's amazing. No, it's a really good point.
Yeah, and also Kevin Spacey as a president again, except this time a real one.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Amazon has made streaming available in HDR for U.S. viewers as well, starting June 24th. So 5 days ago, Mozart in the Jungle is the one series that you can watch in HDR as long as you have a Samsung SUHD TV, which is the only one that could show the HDR right now.
So I still have not laid eyes on an HDR television, but I'm going to double down from all of the buzz that I've seen from everyone who's laid eyes on any of these. As a matter of fact, as soon as I read this story, I did a quick search for HDR TV reviews, and what popped up was your friend of mine, Scott Wilkinson's review from, I want to say NAB, of the televisions he saw. And of course, it's all very early. They only have production units that are, available for high-end content producers, spending four figures on a monitor. But everybody seems to say it's a huge, huge difference. And I think this is huge that they're laying down the groundwork early on. Are you still bearish on HDR? You've seen tepid, I guess would be the best way to put it.
Yeah, I mean, I want to see it at more TVs, and I want to see how much of a difference it really makes. But from all the people I trust, like Scott Wilkinson and Robert Heron and folks, it does make a difference, and it does make the picture better. So I think this is a good thing, and it's just early days, right? There's not many TVs that can do HDR yet, so of course you're not going to see them. But it will expand. Amazon will put more of its shows available. Netflix will eventually get into the HDR game. I think it is significant, though, that Netflix has not embraced HDR yet. That makes me wonder what they're thinking there, or why they're bothering to just go straight to 4K. Maybe they think HDR is going to be a miss because people will just jump to 4K TVs instead.
Well, to be honest, just like you at some point stopped being able to buy a television without the capability of 3D, I think that's what's going to happen. I think 4K and HDR are going to become synonymous because they will both be, every new television will be, if it has 4K, it will have HDR. If it has HDR, it'll be 4K. I believe is what we're headed towards. Fashion vlogger Michelle Phan, who made her name on YouTube, has brought her Icon Network app to the Fire TV. Gadget vlogger Andrew Edwards also previously launched a Fire TV app. Beachfront Media built the app for Phan and sells ads through it. So this is a case where somebody has a bunch of content that was available for free, or I guess, ad supported on YouTube, but because she owned it all, she's able to package it and put it somewhere else where presumably, I assume, I guess if there's ads, it's a free app, but now she controls 100% of the money distribution on there, right?
Well, yeah, I think she splits it with Beachfront, actually, who sells the ads. In fact, according to this Recode story, it's like a 50 to 70% split, but it's just for her, right?
Yeah.
Instead of a platform where they're selling ads for the entire world, and you have to really be a Michelle Phan to be special. Honestly, this is less, to me, a story about YouTube versus Amazon and more a story about Amazon versus Roku. Now, Roku's out there like saying, hey, we're the platform that has everybody. We've got the Amazon app and we've got the Google Play app. And we will sell ads for you if you want. We will do partnerships. And yet now several big name YouTube icons have gone to Fire TV first. Roku definitely has the bigger footprint too. So I'm curious why they're thinking Fire TV is a better bet. Maybe it's a better way to sell ads. Maybe Amazon is making it easier to detect ads or giving them some metrics. I don't know. I think it is significant that Fire TV is getting these apps before Roku does.
I mean, I think the short answer is that we're still in this highly experimental phase where individual brands, these micro networks of one person at a time, have tremendous brand presence, and they're sitting on a back catalog of all kinds of amazing content, and they're looking for ways to monetize it. Because one thing that I think we could all agree on is that the YouTube payout rates, the revenue sharing that they do on ad revenues is pitiful. It's sad, and whether it's because there's a glut of ad space and not enough advertisers, or whether it's just the thing that we have to get ready for. I don't doubt that there's a lot of that she's going to possibly make more. Let's say 10% of the people who see her on YouTube will see her in this circumstance. I'll bet she makes more money from it.
I just got to change everything I just said because Icon Network has had a Roku app for a while.
Okay, well,
so Michelle Fan's been on
I don't
Roku.
have to change
I just got duped by this Recode story into thinking it was special that they were going to Fire TV, but it really is sort of like, oh, and now we're doing Fire TV. So I changed my entire analysis. It's about exactly what Brian was just talking about, frankly, which is, hey, we're trying different things, and we've solidified YouTube and iOS and Roku, and so now we'll try Fire TV. Why not?
Yeah, man. I don't have to amend nothing in my point because YouTube pays very poorly. There, take that to the bank.
But again, to me, and my wife works at YouTube, right? So maybe that's coloring it. But to me, it's less about I want to leave YouTube behind because she isn't. It's I'm getting money from there. I also am going to put this content on the Roku. I'm going to put it on Apple. I'm going to put it on Fire TV because I don't want to be tied to any one platform. Well, and I think that's the most important thing here, YouTube or not. It's about Michelle Fan saying, people want to see me, and I need to be in as many places as possible because it's not about what platform I'm on.
Correct. Well, and also figuring out novel ways to monetize. And again, in no way am I saying that it's unfair that YouTube needs to do X, Y, or Z, because YouTube is very aware that if you have the ability to click a button and reach 4 million people at once, you are sitting on tremendous brand potential, and it's up to you to figure out a way to monetize it. It's not up to YouTube to hold your hands, the way old media Hollywood used to work, where it's like we're going to force a distribution channel of one giant fire hose, and you're going to collect the smallest trickle of it. You're going to instead get a whole bunch of different tributaries. You're going to make some money from live events. You're going to make some money from merchandise. You're going to make some money endorsing this thing or that. You're going to make some money from your Roku app or your Amazon Fire TV app, and all together you're going to be a little media mini empire. And I think that's, to be honest, I think it's empowering, and I think it's a good place for young talent to be.
Yeah, we can get back to talking about the digital revolution if we want to here, and how personal brands and hosts are bigger than channels or networks, etc. They can have their own empire in a way that only a Martha Stewart could pull off in the past, right?
Correct.
And instead of having to rely and plug into television networks and go through those complex negotiations, they can just own everything themselves.
That's correct.
Well, let's see what's under surveillance.
Not like
Yeah.
It's all about location.
Under surveillance.
Real quickly, all 180 Seinfeld episodes now available to stream for the first time on Hulu. So there's another reason if you're a big fan of Seinfeld and you want to watch all 180 episodes. We've been talking about that for a while, but that is official now. They are there, and you can watch them. What have you been watching, Brian?
You know what? I finally got to get caught up on some media content, flying out to Europe and back. I got really excited because I was like, I was thinking, oh, wait, I bet there's a bunch of stuff that's just leaving movie theaters. And sure enough, there was. I finally got to watch Ex Machina, which we could talk about in spoiler in time. Spoiler alert, I liked it. I did watch a bunch more of Orange is the New Black. I think I'm about halfway through episode 4 right now. And finally got to watch The Jinx. And as somebody who really enjoyed listening to Serial, but very frustrated with the way the Serial podcast ended because it didn't stick the landing. It was just sort of, what was the point of all of that given the way it ended? Holy cow, does The Jinx stick the landing? Even knowing, because the whole reason it was on my radar was because there was literal headline-making news about the way the series ended up. And even knowing how it ended, wow, what an amazing ride it was. I can't recommend it enough. I highly recommend it. As a matter of fact, Bonnie was trying not to watch. She could tell I was watching some kind of documentary thing about killing, and she wasn't into it. But by episode 4, I filled her in on the backstory, and she started watching along, and she was sucked in, and it's like the way that thing ends was jaw-dropping, absolutely jaw-dropping.
Well, I remember how the real life story of him was breaking while we were at South by Southwest. Did that all tie back in together for you at the end?
Oh, sure. Like you see the exact moment. And again, spoiler alert. I'm just going to spoil the ending of it because it's in the news, and I guess it's just fast forward if you don't want to know this. But what made headlines was that during the taping of this, there's a moment when he forgets that his microphone is live and essentially confesses to himself in a bathroom to the murders. And it's astonishing. It's amazing. And it's really worth watching. And they do a good job of like, I'm going to say that. And you're going to think like, well, people say things all the time. That doesn't mean blah, 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 blah. Those are all things I thought. And then I watched the episode, I watched the show, and I was blown away. Really, really dug it.
I know that a lot of people don't care about Star Wars Rebels, but it is a Disney XD show, so it's 7+. But I'm really glad that I invested in watching this first season because the Star Wars Rebels Siege of Lothal special was on this week with Darth Vader, voiced by James Earl Jones, essential to the plot in a way that all of a sudden was not. I mean, it is 7+, but I'm like, this is just a great Star Wars story. And this made a lot of my tentativeness about the characters of Kanan and Ezra suddenly be like, oh, right, because they hadn't actually met an actual Sith Lord before. And I'd almost say, I'm on the fence, I'd almost say jump in and watch it because it's just a great story and you get Darth Vader in it and you get a really good Star Wars feel from it. On the other hand, I'm not sure if it packs quite the punch if you haven't invested the time into liking Sabine and Ezra and Kanan and Hera and everybody. But I thought it was really well done, and I think they've set themselves up for an excellent season 2 of that show.
Man, I don't know. I keep almost jumping in and doing it, and then it just feels too kid-like. And here's the real problem: is I think if my kids were into it, I could go along for the ride in a huge, huge way. But Penny and Josie just not crazy about Star Wars.
Yeah, what are you gonna do?
Ashamed to admit.
We also finished up Sense8. We got an email about that. We'll talk about Orange is the New Black. I'm through episode 9, so I'm a little ahead of you, but we'll talk about the ones you've watched in spoiler in time. The Shield, I saved 604, and I watched 605 this week, so we got 2 of them to talk about in spoiler in time. And also True Detective, which we talked about last week when Brian's gone, but Brian hasn't caught up. So True Detective has an episode that needs to be discussed in spoiler in time this week. So Brian, I hope you can catch up before next weekend.
Okay. Yep. No. We'll definitely do that.
Yeah, because I got a lot of thoughts that expand on what I was thinking last week, but then the events of this episode also really affect what those thoughts are, and I can't even get close to explaining them without getting spoilery. So, let's talk about what's on the lookout, man. What's up there, Neshcom? What have you been looking at?
Hey, so I have this is a recent series, but it had very little fanfare. It's a Netflix / city production. It's called Between, and it's it's kind of a young adult, almost sort of modern dystopian drama, where in this little village in Canada, something happens. And slowly, one by one, everyone older than the age of 22 starts to die of this mysterious illness.
So it's a paradise for teenagers.
This is what happened in my hometown growing up.
And so they have to deal with being quarantined by the government, trying to find out what happened. You see this scene here where they have to burn all of the bodies of their parents and loved ones.
Wow.
It's a lot. So obviously, it's a lot of younger actors, a lot of child actors, and so the acting kind of fluctuates a little bit. But the perspectives that it tries to show of like what would happen if suddenly all the adult figures disappeared and you just had to make society work is really unique. So there's 6 1-hour episodes on Netflix, except in Canada, because City helped produce it. So in Canada, you can watch it on Show Me, SHOMI. Yeah.
Dude, that's awesome. And sorry, Fraser Kane. Wait, except for you can watch it, so don't complain to us. Real quick, the chat room is pointing out that I totally spaced, and I also watched Inside Out, which very, very quick thoughts on it. It's weird to have watched enough Pixar movies that you sort of see a little bit of how the magic works, because Inside Out is really just Toy Story, but unfortunately in a world where the rules of engagement are not clear. So as a result, there's, unlike Toy Story where it's like, I know how hard it is to get from Pizza Planet back to Andy's house. I have no sense of how hard it is to get from the subconscious to the control center of the brain. And so it was a well executed Pixar joint. I'd put it on the lower half of overall quality for their stuff.
Let's get to dispatches from the front.
Yeah.
Now, Brian, Boss Benno has written in and said that he gives you permission to use the BBC iPlayer to watch on-demand content guilt-free, pointing out that it's a common misconception that UK citizens pay their TV license tax to own a TV or watch on-demand services like the BBC iPlayer. This is not true. People pay for the license to watch live TV as it's broadcast. He points out if you go to iPlayer and you try to watch live, you'll get the pop-up that says, have you paid for your license? But you don't get that pop-up when you watch on-demand content. He says, I think it's important to point this out. A, so you don't get more guilt-trippy emails, and B, because I'm sure there are many UK cord cutters like me who don't watch live TV and exclusively watch on-demand services like iPlayer who could be saving £120 a year. I'll give him B, but A is still against the rules as far as the BBC says. In fact, even if you're from the UK, when you're outside the UK, they don't want you to watch the BBC iPlayer app. So Boss Benno can give you that guilt-free Blanche thing, but I'm not sure the BBC would.
Fair enough. Andy in Taylor, Texas reaches out to us and said he wanted to share some recent observation he's had comparing television series rollouts on Netflix to a normal weekly schedule. He said that he watched Game of Thrones season 5 and his wife watched Orange is the New Black. He says he got the better experience. He watched Game of Thrones every week. It gave him 2.5 months of entertainment. He enjoyed watching the episodes religiously on time each Sunday night. He enjoyed reading the reactions. He enjoyed hearing us talk about it on Spoiler in Time. Whereas his wife finished Orange is the New Black season in 2 days, and that's all she got out of it. And he's wondering if he goes on to posit a bunch of different ways that this could become the new normal in order to maximize the benefit out of it. I'm just going to say, by that logic, would it be better if books weren't released all at once, because then you just binge read a book in 2 days and then that's all you get out of it? Or would it be better if they forced you to read a chapter per week? And I don't think that idea scales. I think
we actually have a real life example of this. John Scalzi's The Human Division, one of his Old Man's War books, he serialized. He put out in not chapters. I think they were a little beefier than just a chapter, but he put it out in sections. And you had to wait till the next week to read the next section. And guess what? It sold great. And it also sold great when he put the whole book out later, because some people like that and some people don't. And I think that's the key to this email, is that he feels like he got the better end because he likes that serialization and waiting week to week, but other people don't. In fact, my wife, when we were watching Sense8, we were sitting down watching like 2 or 3 of them. She's like, this is the way it should be. Screw appointment viewing. I just want to watch things when I want to watch them, and as many as I want to watch them at once.
Yes, absolutely. So real quick, before we wrap up, there is one quick story I didn't get the chance to share, and I spaced on it.
We skipped
did you
the email
see the promo?
I don't know if we did that on purpose.
What's that?
We skipped Graham's email.
Oh, you know what? I messed up. You want to jump in? Let's get that through because we teased it early on.
Well, yeah, he said he watched Sense8. He said making the series was always going to be tough. Dropping names like The Matrix into the promo probably did more harm than good. It's like expecting to see Star Wars and getting 2001: A Space Odyssey instead. In many ways, this seems like a refinement of what the Wachowskis tried to do in Cloud Atlas. I would 100% agree. Sense8 is a heavy on mood, location, and atmosphere, which I'll feel very now, The fantastical elements exist only to further the personal stories of these 8 people who should have nothing in common but share hopes, fears, dreams, despite being worlds apart. Not all the subject matter makes for comfortable viewing. Some of the emotional notes hit a little close to home, but if you can buy into the conceit, it's profoundly rewarding. This is most decidedly not for everyone, but a Netflix original in the truest sense. I can't help but think that the global inclusive nature of the show helped it find a home in Netflix, which is increasingly trying to be all things to anyone with an internet connection wherever they are in the world. And thank you, Graham Goucham in the chat room. I 100% agree. I think he summed it up better than I could have. Sense8, you should not watch if you want a science fiction or a fantasy show. There is a science fiction-ish, fantasy-ish element to it, but it is a show about being human on planet Earth and what that means for different people. And it's got a wide variety of different people with wide variety of emotion. And if you want human stories and character development, go for it. If that sounds boring to you, except in service of a cooler master plot, then you should not watch Sense8 because it's not about the story so much as it is about the characters.
Yeah, and I will say that those vignettes are exquisitely crafted. I've only watched the first 3 episodes and change, but it's funny to me that the Wachowskis, being a pair that really made their splash for an in-depth, but I would say not character-driven story with The Matrix, right? The Matrix was about the world, it was about the surprises, but Neo was a blank piece of paper, and all the other characters were two-dimensional as hell. To see them grow to tell these extremely human stories, I do enjoy a lot, and I really do need to finish Sense8.
And I think Goucham's exactly right. Like promoting it as from the makers of The Matrix really does you a disservice, because if you get in there looking for that, like Brian said, you're going to be disappointed because it's not about a world of science fiction and stuff.
So real quick, have you seen the new promo for, are you excited about The Leftovers moving into, this is more content stuff, but the Leftovers season 2, we talked about is being moved to a different location. You have this small town in New Mexico that had no departures.
I haven't seen the promo, so maybe that'll get me excited.
Okay, well, that's the conceit of it, and I don't know who carries over from season 1, but I do know that one of my favorite moments of this entire trip to France was the flight back, when in my row was me, Bonnie, Gavin from the Slow-Mo Guys, and Christopher freaking Eccleston. Just right down, just all in a row, the 4 of us. It was surreal. And it's like, I didn't want to, he was so obviously reading his newspaper or doing his thing. I couldn't bring myself to interject.
Was he watching The Leftovers on demand on his seat back?
I kind of like like I started watching it and tilted it over to him, hit eye contact so I could thumb at it and go, that's you.
You're watching a David Tennant Doctor Who, just like not as
you're like, I'm like, boo, this guy sucks, right?
Well, go back to the original one. If he didn't have problems,
he's not angry inside,
so
like you.
Yeah, that's crazy. So, Coach?
No, like that middle ground. I guess they call it World Traveler Plus. I didn't buy the ticket, so it's not the lay flat, fancy pants.
Right. It's not first class, but it's yeah. Interesting. I don't know why I asked. I was curious. I was more curious about what Chris Eccleston flies.
I know. Well, what's funny is that's what I thought.
Not a TARDIS, apparently.
Yeah, what is wrong with this world that I qualify to be in the same quest section as Christopher Eccleston?
That's amazing, actually. Look at that. Look where you've risen to. You're a Time Lord, Brian.
You're just like us.
Our website is a Time Lord because you can go back in time and listen to all the previous Cordkillers if you want and find things that we said where we predicted like what would be happening this year and then show how wrong we were. Go to it, cordkillers.com. Our email address is cordkillers@gmail.com. We're live on diamondclub.tv Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, and we will look at you through your bathroom window earlier or later tomorrow, but we'll see you on Cordkillers next Monday.
Hey guys, Tom and Brian here. We just wanted to say thank you to all of our $5 patrons who keep us loud, live, and independent. You guys make Cordkillers the production that it is.
Your name appears in the video credits and appears in our hearts. And if you'd like to become one of them or see who they are, you can go to patreon.com/Cordkillers.
You'll need to do more than just go there, though. You'll have to sign up and
pledging them out. But
Unless you just want to see who they are.
Well, I mean, you could gawk. That's a little creepy, isn't it?
If you want to be a gawker,
Let's go.
up to you.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.